those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Amp2.tv presents You and Your Doctor, teaching you to live a longer and healthier life. Proudly sponsored by All County Healthcare, where people are the heart of our business. All County Healthcare is a Medicare certified agency where one call will service all your home care health needs. For more information, call 954-717-7027 or visit our website, allcountyhealthcare.com. Now, let's get informed to living a longer and healthier life. Here is your host for today's show.
Welcome back to another episode of You and Your Doctor, sponsored by All County Healthcare. We are a certified home health care agency servicing Palm Beach Gardens, Broward, and Miami-Dade. You can reach us directly at 954-717-7027. I am your host, Louise Gomez. Welcome to the show. And today I am delighted to introduce everybody to Dr. Michael Dennis, MD. He is the founding chair of the advisory board for the Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine right here at FAU. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you on the show, and I know that you may have retired from plastic surgery, but it seems that you've done quite a bit in your career. Can you tell us, let's go back to, why did you decide that you wanted to study medicine and become a doctor? Let's go back to that.
Well, I can go way back if you'd like.
I would.
Both my parents came from farms in Missouri.
Okay.
And although I was born in Kentucky and was living there, by the time I was 8, my parents would send me to the farm, one of the grandparents' farms, to work during the summertime. And about the second year or so, when I was about 10, a neighbor got into very serious medical problems, and there was absolutely no available service that could take care of them.
Okay.
And they passed on.
Oh, wow.
So it struck me immediately that having medical care available to everyone is a primary responsibility. And that's something that I've just followed throughout most of my life.
It's so amazing how that tragedy was the catalyst for you to make that decision, right?
Well, it tempered everything. For example, I went on through medical school.
Okay.
I went to Harvard Medical School and then to Stanford for my residency,
Nice.
plastic and reconstructive surgery. And while I was there, I had a little bit of free time. So I started reading about medical services. And at that point in time, there were probably adequate number of physicians available, but they all needed assistants. So there was a concept being developed called the Physician Assistant Program, or the Nurse Practitioner Program. And there weren't any in California at that point in time. In fact, there were few, if any, west of the Mississippi. But there was a very good one, a PA program, Physician Assistant Program at Duke. So I went back to Duke and took a look at the program and so forth, and then went back to Stanford and as a resident started a PA program.
That's amazing.
And Governor Reagan was very pleased with that response. He gave me some more responsibilities with some committees there and so forth. So that was another sort of initiation into the service program. And I've just, it's been a humbling experience, but I've really tried to devote a lot of time to make sure that other people get care.
And I like how you said it was an initiation into the service program. So you're doing this. This to you is it seems that my take is that you're really doing this in service of others, which is a beautiful thing.
Well, that's right. And it's, I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I don't get paid for any of this. You know, none of that whatsoever. Even having been involved in the creation of the medical school at FAU, there's no payment there whatsoever. And I do, I had a very productive practice in Santa Barbara.
Plastic surgery practice?
Plastic surgery practice.
Okay.
took care of some very, very wonderful people. If I may use one example, Julia Child. You remember that name?
Oh, yes, I sure
She,
do.
she came to me. She allows me to talk about it.
Okay.
She's passed on, but she was about to start her program on TV. And she came to me, she said, Michael, you have a reputation for making people look rested, refreshed, and relaxed, but not different. She said, I don't want to look different. So I had the honor of taking care of her,
Nice.
and she was very pleased about that. So the practice helped pay some of the bills. It also helped me pay for the free work that I did overseas.
I
And
do want to talk about that.
yeah, that was something that I devoted 2 or 3 weeks a year to, was to take care of children with birth defects. No charge or anything like that. And
Where would you go? What countries were you going to?
well, I started going to places like the Philippines and so forth, and then I thought, well, I can't really ignore more desperate communities. So I started going to countries in Africa, like Mali, for example, Sudan, places like that, Central and South America, some of the South Pacific islands. I didn't go to Europe, of course, because they had a very good, mostly
Sure.
good programs, so forth. And it was challenging because these areas didn't have advanced medical programs, hospitals, or anything else. So I oftentimes would take 1 or 2 people with me. I'd pay for their
Sure.
travel, of course.
Is this like the Doctors Without Borders program?
There were several countries where the Doctors Without Borders were helpful.
Okay.
There were some countries where there was no real organization, but I could get the hospitals to at least provide an operating room and a team, people to take care of these children. And most of the repairs were children with cleft lips,
Sure.
cleft palates,
Yeah.
some hand deformities. If they were born with non-functioning fingers and so forth, tried to put that into a functional capacity, so forth. And that was, I'm just very pleased. I thank God every day that I was able to do that.
They must have, let me ask you, how did they treat you when you went overseas and you were, I mean, as a mom, I know if I lived in that country and here comes an American doctor, I can only imagine, what was the reception like for you?
They were wonderful.
I'm sure.
I mean, the families were just so appreciative, so forth. I still get an occasional letter from
I believe it.
someone just thanking them, now that, at the time the child was, say, 3 and now they're in their 40s or whatever.
Right.
But there's so many wonderful people in the world, and I think I almost wish that, well, I desperately wish, fervently wish, I guess, that that everyone had more interest in providing care for others.
Well, you're giving a good example.
And not only overseas, but also in this country too, because
agreed.
there are areas where people just don't have the adequate care at all. And one of the issues is, and this would be something you might want to explore a little bit, is about the physician shortages.
Yes.
Which that's becoming quite an
that's-
issue across the country, and particularly in South Florida. Physicians are either retiring early or sort of moving out of their own practice into what we call hospitalists, where they're hired by the hospital.
Right.
And I can understand they're doing that because it takes a lot of the pressure off.
Of
a
course.
lot of the complexities of things. But it also, reduces the amount of workforce that's available.
Yes.
So that it's embarrassing, but there are areas in South Florida that are very minimally cared for.
That's awful. Dr. Dennis, you have such a wide variety and range of experience. I want to give a call-in number. If anybody has a question, I'd love for them to call in and ask you a question, if that's okay.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, and we have, our number is 888-994-4995, and that's Studio A. We have Dr. Dennis. I'm going to give your email out as well, and that is new, N-E-W, wrinkle, W-R-I-N-K-L-E, at AOL.com, newwrinkle@AOL.com. So you were a plastic surgeon in Santa Barbara. I'm sure you saw many of the elite, very wealthy people. And then from there, you just wanted to give. And I think that's, that could be an inspiration maybe for other doctors out there that are looking to maybe give back.
Well, I saw some of those people as a resource so that services could be provided to those who are in desperate need of it. And there, there are a lot of very generous, gracious people in the United States.
Of course.
All over, and they need to be identified and honored, I think, for all their activity. But I just worry about the number of people that aren't getting the care that they need.
So with the declining physician population, are we in the state of Florida, are we recruiting doctors from other states, or how are we filling in that void? How does that work?
Well, from a personal point of view, having been involved in the creation of the medical school at FAU, we are, and that was a very interesting process, by the way. It might be helpful to mention that the governor of Florida named a medical care commission to investigate the medical services in this region, mainly Palm Beach County, North Broward, and so forth. And I was quite pleased to be named chairman of that commission. And we were given 4 years to do the evaluation. So we spent 4 years literally checking out every aspect of medical care in the community, in the communities, plural. And at the end of that time, we presented our findings to the legislature, and of course to the governor's office and so forth. And one of the primary things we recommended was that that Palm Beach County could benefit from a medical school since it didn't have one. And so that went into the recommendations and so forth. And this is interesting because after the 4 years in our report and so forth, we were then free. And the dean of the medical school in Miami called me and asked me to work for them and help to, work with their medical school program. But what's really a godsend, and so thankful, is that I was named liaison to the biomedical science program at FAU. So I got to meet the people at FAU, and it was immediately obvious that they had the resources and the interest and the excellent skilled staff and so forth to create a medical school there. And so I waved goodbye to Miami and focused on FAU. And that was
congratulations to you. That
was in 2008.
Big accolade.
That was in 2008.
Nice.
And so we worked with the legislature, and there were a lot of people involved. I mean, I was just one of many people working for this project, and we got approval from the legislature in April of 2011.
Oh, okay.
And we have been able to now graduate. Within 2 months, we had a class selected, and within 4 years, we graduated our first group. So we've now, just several weeks ago, here in May, we graduated our 10th class.
Wow, congratulations.
We started with 64.
To you.
We've now moved up to 80 students per class. And I'm trying to influence the legislature and some others to move it to 104.
Dr. Dennis, we have a commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Louise.
Absolutely.
All County Healthcare has exciting news for any and all patients with COPD or other respiratory ailments. Listen to what renowned pulmonologist Dr. Keith Robinson has to say.
Hello, I'm Dr. Keith Robinson, board-certified pulmonologist, medical director at Fusion Health Pulmonary Rehabilitation, and a board member with the American Lung Association of South Florida. We have exciting news for patients with COPD. We now offer IPV therapy at home, which has been demonstrated to improve airway clearance, decrease hospitalization, and improve quality of life of patients with COPD. Please call All County Healthcare for more information about this FDA-approved therapy.
For further information, call All County Healthcare now at 954-717-7027. That is 954-717-7027, or visit our website at allcountyhealthcare.com. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Remember, All County Healthcare always puts the patient's needs first. You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask, but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
I hear things one.
Thank you for tuning back in. We have Dr. Dennis. I'm going to give you his contact info. You can reach him at Wrinkle, WRINKLE, at AOL.com. Dr. Dennis, thank you for this enchanting conversation. There's so much to learn about you and your experience. Tell me, how did you come to learn about All County? How did we connect?
Well, my wife is a diabetic. She's been type 1 diabetic on insulin now for about 38 years.
Okay.
And she has some pulmonary issues from nothing contagious, but from some old pneumonias that she had. Actually, age 16, she got her first episode of pneumonia. So she has some reduced pulmonary function. And we heard about All County and their pulmonary rehab program and so forth, and have been extremely pleased with the service that we've gotten. It's helped her quite a bit.
Good to hear.
And I think that they need to be recognized as a really important component of the medical care in this area.
Did she do the you said the IPV therapy she did?
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is that multiple treatments that she had to do, or how does that work?
Yes.
Okay. And she's feeling better? She noticed the difference?
Definitely better, no question about it. Her oxygen levels are on room air during the day are really within pretty much a normal range.
That's good to know.
So
good to know.
So they've done a very good job, and it's not easy, because the lungs are, for example, she has in the lower lobe something called bronchiectasis, which is irreversible. I mean, you really can't. You really can't improve it. So that what you need to do is rely upon the rest of the lung.
I see.
And these little alveoli, which are little tiny air sacs, can be expanded so they become more efficient.
Okay.
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing very well.
Good to know. So anybody out there tuning in, if you have any challenges, All County Healthcare, we do the IPV therapy, and we have another good testimonial of how good it works. So
very much so.
Glad to hear about that.
Very much so.
So Dr. Dennis, let's go back to, we were discussing the shortage of medical doctors here in South Florida, and now you said it went from 64 graduating.
We started with a class of 64.
64 and now? And
then moved the last couple of years to 80. And I'm really hoping that the legislature will, since it's a state school,
yes,
that they will approve moving up to 104. And then the real goal, of course, is for, they can choose to go wherever they want to.
Of course.
But the wish, of course, is that they will remain in Florida. And so far, about roughly 58 to 60% of our graduates do tend to stay in Florida.
Do
In
they have
addition-
incentives? I'm sorry to
In
interrupt
addition
you.
to the medical school, we've developed some residency programs, which helps, of course, to keep them in the region.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
What are the incentives? So
Yeah.
if you've developed those residency
That's,
programs,
That's a big one.
that is definitely
Yeah.
will help with retention, I would hope.
It certainly does, because that way they can finish their medical school training, move right into the residency, become more comfortable if they're non-Florida residents.
Right.
Become more comfortable with living here
Sure.
and so forth. If they can deal with the heat, as you know.
Yes. Yes. Is there a high percentage of medical students that come from out of state, being that FAU is a state college? How is it as far as, is it mainly?
Well, it varies, of course, from year to year.
Okay.
But I would say that on the average, the number of students from out of state is a little over 50%.
Okay, so it's higher than I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
But it varies. Sometimes it's less than
Sure,
that, sometimes a
sure.
bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real standard in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we're very pleased to have them. And the physician shortage is also a part of a general medical manpower shortage. You know, I don't like the word manpower because women are so important in,
Thank you.
in medical
I
care.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I wish there was a woman power, something like that. you know.
Human power.
Human power.
There you
that's,
go.
That's the one to use. There are nursing shortages as well,
Wow.
and there are shortages in some of the therapy programs,
Mm-hmm.
like physical therapy, respiratory therapy, and so forth. So the people really, you know, they wish they had more care, and they certainly deserve it.
Okay.
You know,
Yes.
they certainly do.
We all
They-
do.
Yeah.
Dr. Dennis, what would you say, going back to when you went to school to become a doctor, what would you say are some distinctions as to when comparing, if we're going to compare from when you went to school to now? Any distinctions, that anything better? I know a lot of people have these grueling residencies where there are many hours in the hospital.
Mhm,
Has anything changed, or is that still the same? Anything better?
Well, the important component of residency education is to make sure that they're highly skilled in whatever the discipline they've chosen and so
Okay.
forth. And that takes a lot of time, takes a lot
does.
of hours. So it's an important feature. And I think that for any residency program to relax their requirements or relax their expectations would be quite dangerous
Of course.
to the
Of
general
course.
population.
Of course. I wasn't maybe implying relaxing them. I thought maybe if something was different or something changed for the better maybe, or something was
Well, there's one factor is that we tend to learn more each year about
True.
any particular area, so that the training requires even more concentration.
okay. That's a good
There are a
point.
lot of advances being made. And those advances need to be passed on and expanded.
This is a good point.
Yeah.
As time goes on, we have more advances with information and technology. Dr. Dennis, we actually have 2 minutes left. I just wanted to give you that heads up. We have 2 minutes left. Is there
Well-
anything you'd like to share in these last couple minutes?
Well, since we're on that topic about providing the services and so forth,
yes.
another thing I've done over the years is about every 3 to 4 years, I produce something called a regional medical care guide,
Nice.
which evaluates all the medical facilities in the region.
I like that.
Try to condense it down so that it's readable, and then I send that out to every residence in the counties,
I like
North
that.
Broward, Palm Beach County, and so forth. And hopefully it's helpful for people to understand what's available
Right.
and to get an idea of what may not be available,
Mm-hmm.
so that they don't have to drive to Tampa or something
Right.
like that to find the care that they need. So the Regional Medical Care Guide is something that I really am
Is that
happy
sent
to
out
do.
yearly?
No, I do it about every 3 to 4 years.
Oh, okay. Every couple of years.
Yeah.
Good. So you
I
keep everybody
started-
up to date.
I started doing it, I think, in 2012, somewhere around there. So
Okay.
so did around 2016, 2020, and I'll do another one next year for that.
Well, we're lucky to have you. Thank you so much
Well-
for joining us on the show. I can't believe time has passed already, but
Well,
thank
I
you
feel
so much.
I feel lucky. I feel blessed to have been given this opportunity, and I thank God every day for the opportunity to serve.
It shows. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for helping people. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Louise.
Absolutely.
you.
Such a pleasure. Thank
Pleasure
you so
indeed.
much.